Chemical Technology, Mumbai. And prior to joining Venture Center, she has an academic experience of 12 years, which includes research experience of 3.6 years. So over to you, Smita ma'am, for the next session.
Sharing the slides. Yeah, just give us 2 minutes. We are just sharing the screen. Just select this. Yeah. Thank you, Siddhi, for the kind introduction. Good evening, everyone. So I'll be sharing some smart steps and tips with you for winning grant applications. And we'll focus it today to BIG grant, the grant which is open right now. So when we think of writing a proposal, what exactly we are doing is we have an idea in our mind and we want to translate that idea and put it in form of a proposal. So our task when we say we are writing a grant is to convert that idea which exists in our mind to a proposal which is fundable. And how to make it fundable is what we are going to discuss today. So in our journey of the technology development, these are different steps. So we call it as technology readiness level scale. So we start with an idea, we test that idea, so we get some proof of concept. So we test our concept, proof of concept. Then we develop it further, we validate it, we repeat and see if we are able to get the same results. That's how we validate our proof of concept. We make prototype, we validate it, we do the required trials, get the certifications, get the approvals, and then finally we hit the market. Okay. So we do research, we develop and we deploy. Now these different TRL levels are actually different phases of our technology development journey. And each phase is a small project in itself. And this small project can then be funded by different funding agencies. So as Siddhi mentioned, BIG is for if you are at concept stage somewhere here, or if you already have a proof of principle or proof of concept, say TRL 2 or 3, and then you want to maybe further either establish the proof of concept or validate the proof of concept, then that becomes your project for this particular grant. Okay, so identify such small projects in your technology development journey. So then this project, what is the need for this project? What all you need? How much money you need? How much time you need? What resources are required with respect to maybe equipment, consumables, manpower, facilities. So all this is something you will identify and then start putting together in a form of a proposal. So we first need to understand at what TRL level we are right now, and then accordingly select the funding agency and the grant applicable and apply for it. So in case of BIG, to understand these TRL levels, we request you to please visit the BIRAC website. BIRAC has a detailed document on TRL levels domain-wise. So whichever domain you fall into, suppose if you are into medical devices, then please click on that PDF file for medical devices TRL and try to understand that whatever work you have done, that actually complies to what TRL level, and accordingly please choose the TRL level. Now, before we start writing any grant proposal, it is very important to understand the funder or the funding agency also. Okay, so every funding agency, in this case BIRAC, they have published their guidelines or say RFP, request for proposal. So please go through that thoroughly, read each line carefully to understand whether you are eligible, what are the objectives, what is the scope, what they are supporting, what is not supported, what are the funding limits, timelines, deliverables, expectations, formats. So I will suggest please make a simple checklist after you have read those guidelines, that maybe, with respect to eligibility, your own company, there would be some documents which would be required. There would be some documents required as supporting documents or for proving your proof of concept. So just make a simple checklist of that. Now that you have done that, as she already showed the evaluation criteria, please understand what is the evaluation criteria, because then you have to make sure that those sections are very properly written and they come out very strong, and you have a very good chance of winning the proposal. So make sure you have read that. You have identified the correct theme based on the idea which you're working on. So if there is any doubt about that, you can always talk to our team or BIRAC team to understand the details. So it's very important to align your proposal with the funder expectations. Talk to people who have been funded earlier, understand their journey, how did they go through that, or talk to BIRAC partners, BIG partners like Venture Center to understand more details, or directly to the funding agency if you have any doubts before actually submitting the proposal. So here, when we are talking about these grant proposals, these are not research proposals. These are proposals where you are asking money for commercialization of an idea. So it has to have a commercialization potential, has to have a business. So for that, you need to craft a clear and compelling story. So it's a storytelling. So you will start with, in a logical manner, that what is the problem you're working on, where is the gap which you have identified, and you are trying to propose a solution and use a methodology with which you are sure that problem would be solved, and what would be those measurable outcomes, and finally the bigger impact. Okay, so make sure you use a logical flow. Start with the why. What is the problem? Why it is a big problem? What impact it has? If solved, then what impact it will create? So please have that in your story. Make it simple, use simple language, be very specific and precise. Try to avoid jargons. Don't use very difficult technical terms which may not be easy to understand for some of the reviewers who may not be from the technical background. So now moving on to the different components of any grant proposal. So any grant application would have these different components that, you will first draft a title, maybe write a summary of the project, you will explain the problem, you will explain solution, you will tell how it is different, how it is novel, different from competitors, then at what stage currently you are, and then what you plan to do, what are your clear objectives, what is the methodology work plan with which you plan to achieve the objectives, who are supporting you, what are your credentials, and then the market you're looking at. So let's look at all these sections in detail. So first, starting with the title. Now title is something which is the first thing anyone is going to read. Okay, so this is the first opportunity for you to catch the attention of any reviewer or the funding agency. So please make it interesting for them. It should clearly reflect the focus of your proposal. You try to use all the funding agency friendly keywords or important words which will help them identify that this is the right domain and subdomain, and sometimes it might be also used to route it to the right reviewers. So please keep it short, specific, impactful, and interesting. After the title, there would be a section where you would be expected to write an abstract or summary of your project. So now you need to understand that you might think this is just a small paragraph which we need to write, but this small paragraph is actually going to create the big picture and the overview of your whole project. So make sure this is again very interesting, clear to understand. Don't use I, avoid using that. Okay, write it in the third person, that as a team, you are working together to achieve this. It should be a stand-alone description. That means whatever components we saw earlier, that why you are doing it, what problem, what solution, who is doing it, how you plan to do it. So you make sure that a summary of each of these sections is embedded in your summary. So even if someone just reads the abstract stand-alone, only the abstract, they should still be able to understand that what is your story, and they should get motivated after reading your summary to read the rest of your proposal. Okay, so that should inspire the reviewer to read more, to find out more what you have written in the proposal. So this summary has to be interesting, and as I said, use the right kind of keywords here, because again the title and summary together will be used to route your proposal to the appropriate reviewers for the review process. Now for every project, you will have some objectives. So our final goal is to achieve that TRL 9 and reach the market, right? That's a broad and big goal. But to reach there, we have to first, achieve each milestone of each TRL, for which we need to have some specific objectives. Now, all these objectives have to be SMART. So we all know what the SMART stands for. They have to be specific, not general, measurable. Wherever you can use quantitative terms, please use them. Should be actually achievable and realistic. So don't write something which is, technically not feasible or not possible, maybe in those timelines or with those fundings, okay, funding amount. So that means that is not realistic. And then timely. So whatever can be achieved in that timeline. So that way you set your objectives based on the timelines and the funding requirement. So you will first start with explaining the problem you are trying to solve. So when explaining the problem, okay, please clearly state the problem and take help of strong supporting data from statistics or from news articles, or if it is related to healthcare, then WHO references or NIH or AIMS, ICMR. So quote these. Okay, so you add credibility to your data, then explain why it is an unmet need. Who is affected? This is an unmet need for whom, and why does it matter so much? What impact it has currently, if not solved? And if solved, then what impact it would have? It might happen that the work you are doing is already being done by someone. There is a solution already there, but then you might want to, highlight that existing solutions are there, but what are the shortcomings or gaps with those existing solutions? So have you identified those correctly? And then you have now some strategy to solve them. So please list down the problem clearly, specifically. Don't talk in generalities. Focus why this problem is important now and we really need a solution. So unmet need, as she also showed, has a weightage of almost 20%. So whatever you are solving should be a big problem which is being faced, and funding agencies should also get motivated to support that problem. Next comes solution. How are you solving it? So here we have taken one example. So suppose if I am developing a glucometer, okay, I am developing a glucometer where this can be a point of care can be used at home for measuring the blood glucose daily by a diabetic patient. So if I have to explain the problem statement, there I might not tell about, what is diabetes and all that, because, that would be a general thing. I will directly talk about what is the problem faced by diabetic patients with respect to its daily monitoring, okay? And what devices are available and what are the problems with them. Then after having talked about that, I will talk about my product. And while talking about it, if I use an image, then it is very clear to understand that it will be a device like this. So this is the product I'm trying to develop. where I might provide a lancet with which the patient has to prick their finger, place a blood drop on the strip, and that strip goes inside the device, detects the blood glucose, and you see a digital display here of the blood glucose value. Okay, so that also it helps me in explaining how the product would be actually used. And then this also actually highlights the business model that people might have to pay once for the device, but they might have to keep buying these strips, okay, again and again from me. So that's a recurring thing. And this is a one-time sale product, okay. So highlight the key features that, what all is there in this product, what is its accuracy level, easy to use, all those salient features would be listed here. Try to explain how it works in brief, include images, and after you have done explaining all this, then talk about the underlying technology, that what is there in this device. Okay, so there might be a biomarker which is there, a different kind of sensor which people have not yet used. So what is the technology? If you want, you can have a separate slide after this where you actually explain the science behind it and all the details. But the first slide, first time when you're talking about your proposed solution, try to keep it simple. And the second slide, you can talk about the underlying technology. Next comes that how are you different from others who are already there in the market with a similar product. So for that, for proving your differentiation, there are two features here. One is novelty, another is competitive landscape. So in novelty, you please try to list the patentable features of your product. Okay. Here, don't try to use the general things like, it because it is cost effective, rapid, point of care, user friendly. That's why it is novel. No. Here we want you to use more like, what would be your claims in the patent, or if you have already filed a patent, then please include the status, the number, if it is whether you have filed it in India or it's a US patent, whatever, or what is your strategy, okay? And make sure that you have done a good freedom to operate search. So patent landscaping has been done. You have studied the closest patent related to your technology, and you are sure that you are not going to infringe any one of them, and whatever you propose to do, you can patent it, and there is total freedom to operate for you. So kindly do this. Take help of patent attorney firms, patent agents, take their service to get facts here and strong data for your novelty slide. Next comes the competitive landscape, that who are your competitors. So for here, we suggest this kind of a simple table format where you can have your competitors listed here, say maybe product 1, 2, 3, which is that company, from which country of origin they are, and then your technology you can list here and identify few parameters against which you want to do the comparison. So these parameters, again, you have to please select very carefully, and these have to be the ones which are really important, because of which the consumer, the final customer, will be willing to buy your product. So whether it is the time taken, the technology itself, its accuracy, its efficiency, its selling price, its availability, ease of use, portability. So please try to find out those parameters with respect to your own technology. Then here what we have done is, while doing the comparison, please just don't write yes, no, tick mark, cross. Please don't do that. That's very qualitative and subjective way. Try to use quantitative facts if those are available with you. That in our case, suppose the same glucometer, if it is able to detect blood glucose within 30 minutes, whereas the competitor product is taking say 2 hours or 8 hours. So instead of saying that ours is faster and theirs is slower, what we have done is we have actually put the time. Okay, so that makes more sense. And wherever we are better than our competitor, we have highlighted that in green color. So visually it is easy, quickly person can understand where we are standing out and we are actually superior than our competitors. So use a simple template of this type to explain your competitive landscape. Next very important question is, at what level right now you are in your technology development? So initially we talked about TRL levels, and again I will reiterate that please look at the BIRAC TRL levels which are there on their website. Maybe we can help you with that link in the chat box also. And then accordingly decide at what stage you are, what is your current status. Now, when you say, if I have a proof of concept, suppose. So if you have a proof of concept, then please include your preliminary data, whatever results you have obtained, which will help reviewer understand that yes, you know how to do it, you have been able to do, you have been able to achieve the right kind of results with the right kind of experiments. So build that credibility. Please include the key data. Don't just dump everything there and leave it to them to find out. Make it simple. Have the key inferences and key data and images there. So this section is going to actually help you prove your own doability, technical feasibility of the product, and credibility. So whatever I said was for proof of concept. But suppose if you're just at concept stage, idea stage, you might say that we don't have any proof of concept with us. We have not started experiments. Then what? So in that case, please provide proof of principle. So go back, look at literature. If a part of it has been done by anyone, or say suppose in this case, if you are developing a device, if the biomarker is already reported for that kind of a disease condition, then that's a great evidence that people have earlier used it or have tested it for this particular property. So use literature evidence, strong literature evidence to prove that yes, it can work. Now, once you have explained that at what stage you are currently, next thing is what you plan to do during BIG in next 18 months. So what are your objectives? So you might have say 2 or 3 or 4 objectives. Okay. For each objective, you will have or you will identify a list of activities or tasks or experiments which need to be completed, okay, to achieve that particular objective, okay. And for each activity, how will you make sure that you have actually completed it successfully and you are matching the acceptance criteria which is required for that particular activity as per regulatory or industry norms. So have a criteria, an acceptance criteria for each of your own experiments or activity. Then the time frame. How long will each activity take? And what kind of resources, right from consumables, equipment, manpower, facility, whatever, would be required. So this section is the most detailed and thorough section of your application. Please work on it with a lot of, be very careful, be very realistic here, and factor in all the delays which you can think of. If you are dependent on import of some of the consumables, if you are dependent on availing some of the services for testing, then talk to them. Or if you're available, depending on some equipment purchase, try to get the real timelines and then propose these activities. Okay. So it's like this, you will work on each objective, the tasks required to achieve that objectives, the criteria, time frame, and resources. Now, this is one example for the same product, the example which we have taken here, the blood glucometer. So suppose if this was my BIG project, so in that case, if I had to list down the objectives and milestones, so here you can see there are 3 objectives here, okay? And the timelines are 6 months for achieving each objective. So first objective, we have said we will design the prototype. And then I would have had some activities, okay, listed. And then how will I demonstrate or prove that I have completed? What would be those indicators that I have achieved that milestone? So that would be, say, suppose if I had said we will go ahead with the purchase of equipment, we will hire people, we will start designing the prototype, we will then start with the mechanical analysis, design simulation. So here then I would say that my indicators will be equipment purchase would have been completed, team will be in place, design would be in place, this would have been completed and all. So what would be expected is after 6 months, there will be a review meeting where the review committee consisting of BIRAC members and BIG partners, will review whether you have actually completed this work. Do you have data supporting that and documents to support that? So that's why when we say that, you have to very carefully think of the objectives and work plan. That's why it is necessary that, whatever you are proposing, you make sure that is really achievable and doable technically as well as, commercially also. Next here, if you see M2 was about mechanical and electronic testing. Accordingly, we have listed the indicators. And if you look at the third milestone, here what we have done is we have said we will validate the prototype. So how many prototypes? We have said 20 units, okay, pilot manufacturing of 20 units and its clinical evaluation at 3 centers. So then I know that while calculating my budget, I have to factor in the cost of 20 units and I should have budgetary code from all the 3 clinical centers, and based on that only I should propose my budget, and only if it is fitting there I will say 3 years. If I realize that with that budget I may not be able to do at 3 centers, only 1 center, then I will keep it as 1 center only. So try to keep it quantitative wherever possible. Say you can say I'll make just 2 units. That's also fine because that is what is actually possible. So try to make it concise and specific, quantitative wherever possible. So always you should have a target product profile, or in this case we have called it as grand end deliverable. So that means the device which we are making, what is the final expectation, the target which we want to reach. So say if we want to reach that it should be able to detect the blood glucose levels within 2 minutes with a certain limit of detection at 95% sensitivity, 98% specificity, accuracy. So those are my target product profile based on the industry acceptance criteria and whatever is expected by customers. Unless I achieve those, I may not say that my product is fully ready. So I might have to keep on doing iterations, modifications to achieve that. So always make sure that you know that what is actually desired from the end product and you work towards it. Very important, we are doing all this to get the right kind of money to support our studies. So usually these are the budget heads. So there will be some capex and there will be some opex. So opex usually will have consumables, manpower, any incubation rentals, travel, outsourcing, IP, contingency. And capex will have if you want to buy some equipment. Okay. So you will then list down the amount and justification or basis. Now from where this justification will come? So suppose if I am working, say again on that glucometer, and if I need a particular equipment, okay, or I need to compare it with a standard and I need to buy that equipment. So I will buy that equipment, I will propose the cost here and I will justify that where exactly this equipment will be used in my methodology. And I should make sure that it is aligned with that. So your budget and your work plan should be well aligned. Okay, whatever consumables you're proposing here, those experiments should be part of your work plan. So make sure you justify your budget well, it is aligned with your work plan, looks realistic, check all the numbers again, and should be both reasonable and necessary. Okay, it shouldn't happen that you're asking for 25 lakhs for travel only out of the 50 lakhs. So that should not happen. Next very important section is, we clearly said in the beginning that this grant is to support projects which can then translate into good businesses. Okay, so it should have some commercialization market potential. So have you looked at that market opportunity? Have you quantified which is the market? What is the total addressable market? So that's your TAM, serviceable available market, and finally the SOM, which you will cater to, the serviceable obtainable market. So is it a really very great market in terms of numbers, or whether it's a very niche market? Even if it is a very niche market, but the value you are adding and the value you are getting is really higher, then not to worry at all. But whether it is a very crowded market, if it is a very crowded market, then your competitive landscape, your differentiation should be very strong. Okay, then you then stand a chance to stand out over here and make a great business. Also, you need to look at what is the CAGR, at what rate the market is growing. So clearly state who will use or buy your product or technology. This could be a product, it could be a product plus service you're developing, or a process technology, or a technology which you plan to license. Okay, so clearly state what is your product. Now we have understood that with BIG, we say, suppose if we plan to make a validated prototype, so by the end of BIG, by the end of 18 months, we would have developed and validated the prototype. Now, what is the path ahead? Are you aware? What is your go-to-market strategy, or what are the different steps in this particular go-to-market? So what we want to understand is, do you know the whole journey and what would be the different steps? What would be required? Whether you require regulatory approvals from which agency or which certification bodies? What kind of licenses would be required? Have you identified any licensing partner or manufacturing partners? What is your plan to get out there and approach your collaborators or reach the market? So what are the channels, whether you need to do more field trials, extended validation, pilot trials, and what duration would each of these steps take? So this timeline will help us understand that after BIG also, how long would it take for you to reach the market with your product? Okay. And say BIG would support this part of your journey, but then there are other BIRAC grants or other funding agencies which you can approach to and raise through investors to support each section of this your journey of your technology development. Very important is, what is your business model? So we talked about, you will be listing your salient features, right? Explaining, what your product does, how it has to be used. So what are those value added features? What is your value proposition, and for whom? Who are your end consumers, and then who are your actual customers? So many times when you are developing a diagnostic, actually it would be used for patients, but buyer might be a hospital. Okay, so then if that is your target market, how you plan to approach them? Do you want to, if it is B2B, so these could be the different models, either B2B or directly reaching the customers, B2C, or through government. So what is your business model? Then how you plan to reach out to them? Maybe, could be meetings, conferences, exhibitions, or what are the different channels, or through distributors, or through key opinion leaders. Okay, so have you identified that? And then how will you make money? What would be your revenue streams? Whether you will only sell the product, or it will be product plus service fees, or it will be only a service fees, subscription fees, advertising revenue, or you will license it and get licensing fees plus royalties. So how are you going to make the revenue? That you should be able to just explain in simple words. So here we don't expect a lot of details since you are at an early stage of development, but at least some clarity of how it would be getting converted into a business and how you would be able to make money with it. Finally, the cost structure. So right now, the cost which you will calculate for your product might be based on, the COGS, and you will add on some of the margins of some distributors and all that, and then come to a cost. And you can always say that this is an approximate cost because final productization might happen little later, but you can have an estimate of that approximate cost here and the channels through which you plan to do the business and reach to your final customers. Now, very important parameter here, and in the weightage also we saw, there's a lot of weightage for team. Who is proposing to do this, okay? And why should the funding agency support you? So when you are preparing this slide for team, kindly include your photograph, your team member's photograph, and try to cover. So please include name, your affiliation with the company, educational background, your experience, years of experience, as well as suppose you are, ex Lupin or say ex Google, please mention that. Okay, that also adds to credibility. Your earlier companies, your expertise, what are you expert in? and what will be your role in the project, whether you are the project leader or co-PI, or someone might be a technical head, someone might be a business mentor. So what role they are going to play in that project? So you might have two parts here. One would be your full-time team, okay, which is working full-time on the project, and there could be some external advisors, mentors, partners, collaborators. So you might have a separate slide, or on the same slide. For them also, try to include all this information, okay, and especially the expertise, so that it is clear that how they are going to contribute to this particular project. So within your team, make sure that there are complementary skills. People have different profiles which are actually required to execute your work plan, which is proposed, and build a business out of it. So your credibility will come from this particular slide. So make it appealing, make it strong, try to include all the necessary information which is required to make it stronger. For example, here, if you are working in healthcare, suppose if you are developing a device which has to be then tested in clinics by a clinician, then it's important that you have clinicians onboarded as advisors or mentors. So that means you have thought of that, how you are going to take this further through clinical validation. So right kind of advisors who would contribute in maybe in technical and non-technical, or taking it to market, should be part of your team. Now comes the evaluation. So Siddhi did show this slide to you that these are the different evaluation criteria. So as I said, whatever you're working on, is that a real big unmet need, a big problem which is still unsolved? So that will carry a weightage of 20%. How are you different? What value you are adding? If people are already working or there is an existing solution, then what are you doing? Whether it's an import substitute, or there is a very great cost benefit, or it is totally indigenous, or it is a different technology altogether, a disruptive thing which will solve the problem in a very simple way. So why it is different? So that you should be able to explain, and that's 20% weightage over there. Technical viability, very important that whatever you're proposing can be actually done in the lab or in those facilities, or can be made. It's not something, which is just in air, and when you actually start working on it, you realize this may not work. So suppose if it's a chemistry and you say A plus B and I'll make C, but if people know that A plus B never react, then it's not viable, right? So it has to be technically viable as well as scalable. So something which might happen in lab, but we feel it may not get scaled up, then that also may not be supported, because for it to be a business, it has to get scaled up also. Very important is team strength, whether you're really passionate, and if you are, then that passion has to come across through your application in that application. Because if first time when you are building your application, it's a document which you will be submitting. Okay, you don't get a chance like me here verbally actually explaining it. So there, your passion should be reflected through the sections which you have written in that proposal. And finally, it must have a business perspective. So the points which we said, that market opportunity, go-to-market strategy, business model, all these should be clearly stated. Now, one very important point is, though there are different weightages given here, this score is not additive. That is, out of 100, if you say, suppose score more than, say, 70 or so, that means you are definitely selected. No. Even if you fail in any one of these aspects, okay, if that one is little poor, then also your proposal can fail. Because suppose if everything is good, but they feel that the team is not strong, then this time it might not be selected, and you might get a feedback that, the team doesn't look strong to achieve these goals, is not capable enough. You need to make your team stronger. So they might even advise that, what kind of profiles or people are required with what kind of expertise. So then you can strengthen your team and apply again. So similarly, if they feel that it's a good research but might not be scalable, or there could be risk related to regulatory or ethical risk, environmental risk, then that may not be supported. Now, those were the important sections of your proposal. But other than that, there would be a provision to also attach some of the supporting documents, additional documents. So these could be letter of support, expression of interest from your collaborators, or your potential licensors of your technology. So please attach those also, or your earlier publications proving your proof of concept. So because that all adds credibility. Now, after doing all this, if you're not able to submit on time, then that's really bad. So before you actually hit that submit button, make sure you're not in a hurry, and you please make sure at least 3 to 4 people do a good proofreading. Because what happens, when one single person writes it, whatever we have written, we feel okay, that's all correct, and we perceive it in the same way. But when a third person reads, they might have some questions, some doubts, or they might feel that whatever you have written is not coming out the way you are actually explaining. So please pay attention to that. Definitely spelling, grammar, and accuracy, those mistakes should not be there. And deadline for this BIG is 30th November, 5:30 p.m. So please pay attention to that 5:30 p.m. also, because what happens is people just assume that 30th November means it would be till midnight, and 5:30 p.m. portal closes. It's an online application, and then there is no provision to submit the hard copy or soft copy through email. So please don't lose that. And most of the times, the last 2 days, many of them are submitting it online, so the portal might get hanged, okay, and you might face those issues. So please avoid that last minute rush. Try to be before deadline and make sure it's complete. Now, to make sure that your application is complete, reviewed, and there are no common errors and it is competitive enough, we always advise that take help. Take help, talk to people like team of Venture Center. There are good mentors here. Talk to those mentors. They will help you in finding out if there are any weak points in your proposal. How can you make them strong? If there are some common technical errors or mistakes which you have made, how those can be corrected before you actually submit it. Okay. So make sure you take help from mentors or people who have already applied earlier and got the grant. Very important is also to understand why proposals fail. Okay. So very obvious reason, if you have not been able to meet the deadline. Yes. So you have missed your train this time, and then you'll again have to wait till the call is announced. If you have not followed the guidelines properly, if there is nothing interesting there, okay. So then, people might not support it. If you have not met the priorities, so understand the scope, what they are supporting, the themes, sub themes, and make sure you fall into those. If it is not complete, the sad part is sometimes I don't know why, but maybe people are in a hurry, so they don't complete the all the sections of the application. Please don't do that. Don't be in a hurry. That's why we say that take your time. Well written proposals are well received. If there is a poor literature review, if you're not able to support it with strong literature evidences, if the project what you're proposing looks beyond the capacity of PI, if we feel the team is not strong enough to achieve it, or what you have proposed, the methodology, the work plan is not good, is not up to the industry standards, it is weak, or the budget looks totally unrealistic, not aligning with your work plan, or the cost is greater than benefit, means whatever you're making, okay, the cost you're incurring in making it, and finally the cost at which it will be sold, there is a big difference. In that case, there is no economic viability. You will not be able to make profit out of it. Then no use making it with that kind of a technology, okay? Or if it is a poorly written proposal. So finally, to conclude, these are the final tips. Be very realistic. Okay, understand the need of the project very carefully. Have facts and include facts. Be very specific. Facts will help you to make your project specific. Don't talk in generalities, in emotional terms. Use a language which is easy to understand. Avoid using technical jargons. Keep the formats clear, easy to read. Research your funder, what they are looking for. and whether you have included all that in your application or not. Start with a brief summary for each of the sections also. First, write down a rough draft. Read it again and again. Brainstorm with your team members. Refine it and then finalize it. Propose a realistic budget. As I said, budget should be well aligned, justified with your work plan. Submit all the requested application materials, like in case of BIG, you need to attach a concept note, you need to upload a competitive landscape table, you need to upload a presentation, and then any other supporting documents. So make sure you have all these application materials which are to be uploaded ready with you. Take your time. Well written, well thought proposals are better received, as I told you, than the hurried ones. And read the instructions again. If you have any doubts, make sure you clear your doubts before actually preparing your proposal and submitting it. And very important is to meet the deadline and not miss it. Now, many a times what happens is you feel that, we said that this is a very, very competitive grant and you may not get it in your first attempt. But don't give up, don't lose heart. What you need to do is you need to understand why did it fail. So there will be a feedback provided to you by the funding agency, by your BIG partners. Go through that feedback. Then think that for each point in the feedback, what could be the corrective measure you can take and work on it and make your application stronger before the next application round, so that next time when you submit, you make sure that you have strengthened your application with the right kind of work which was required, and that's how you rewrite it. Okay, otherwise it makes no sense if you submit the same application again and then expect that maybe this time it will go through. No. So please work on it with the right kind of feedback and the details which are required. So that's all from our side, and our team is here to help you with whatever questions you have, or if you need mentoring, so we'll be happy to support you. Thank you, and we can take some questions now.
Can I read the first question?
I'll stop sharing. Yeah.
Yeah, so the first question is from Samodhi. She's asking, is there any format for concept note? And what if all information is required to mention in this doc, as most of the information is anyway covered in the main application form?
Yeah. So see, in the main application form, there is no provision where you can include some of the images or results, with respect to your studies. So all that can be part of your concept note. So concept note, you can have a small summary and key data from your some of the experiments which you have performed, or the literature evidence also. So whatever you feel you have not been able to include in your main application, that could go, or it could be just a summary of your whole application also, each section, and the important data which you want to highlight.
Yeah, okay. The one more question from Alvin. Maybe I'm pronouncing it correctly. Okay, never mind. So his question is, can we use reference data from existing company to prove the validity of the problem and unmet need?
From the existing company. Or means earlier if someone has worked on it, right?
Yeah, so his question is like what I read. So he has not mentioned anything, but he's saying that we use the reference data from existing company to prove the validity of the problem and unmet need.
So if someone is already working on that problem and they have that problem statement in the public domain, so yeah, you can say that, there are so many people already working because this is a big problem. So you can use reference data from existing company. Yes, you can. If it is in public domain, you can. Yeah.
Okay, there is one more question regarding the same, I think, with the same reference. So what if I have a proof of concept from referencing an existing company and high potential of economic development in a region, but I don't have any novel technology to patent at the moment?
Okay. So if it is something which is already existing and you are trying to just mimic and make because it is not available here, but then again, as we said, patent infringement is something you have to be careful of. So in that case, you can't just copy something and make. You would, maybe the technology is same, but few things will vary, right? Maybe the components which you are using or the way you are making it. So all that needs to be studied. So if it is of great economic importance, or it is something which is not at all available in India, no one is making it, in that case, definitely it is required that someone works on it. But then it is expected that it's not exact copy of whatever is there already. Okay, maybe you might be doing it in some different way. That is something we need to understand, and then you can definitely propose to work on it.
Okay, I think the next question is, you can also see from.
So he's saying proof of concept. So yes, if someone has already made it, means there is technical feasibility, can be made. Yeah, but you better than citing it, you say that people have worked and they have this technology is already proven. Yeah.
And the question is from Kumar Vikrant, is that can we submit proposal for service-based startup?
Service based, we will have to understand that what it is. If it is a technical service, where and what type of technical service it is, how it is important. Once we understand that, I think we'll be able to comment better on it.
And how about the healthcare AI model development? Can BIG
Yes.
supports?
Yeah,
Okay.
BIG supports that. So many a times in AI things also, if it is many a times service based also, or it is both product and service, so that's supported. Yeah.
Yeah, excellent topic. I think there is one more question. I think it's the same question from Shivraj. Let me skip this. Okay. Okay, there is another question based on for the strategy. What is the strategy when we meet investor?
So here, when we are talking about BIG, so this is very early stage where I don't think the investors would come in. But strategy is same only. It's there also. You need to craft a compelling story and do the storytelling to them, that why this problem, how you plan to do, why you are the right people to do it. So the story remains the same. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, there is one more question from Vijay Rajput. We already answered, but Vijay, we want to just let you know that, of course, we will support you. If you need any kind of help from us, we are there to support you. You can contact our team. Then I think one more question from Sumit. Okay, shall I read this? I think he has a very big question. Okay, hi, we are working on extraction of active biomolecules from plant source, which is a weed as a pesticide and insecticides, and have very few data, few lab data. So is it considerable in BIG? And if yes, under which sector and subsector will it comes?
This will come under agriculture. Yeah, this will come under agriculture, and sub-theme would be biopesticides is a category there. Yeah. So it's okay if you have some lab data, you can include that, and then you can propose what more data you plan to generate through BIG, what different trials or experiments you plan to do. Yeah.
Okay. The question from Chaitanya is that anything specific to keep in mind if a startup has received a grant? So, for example, Nidhi Prayas already, and for example, keeping milestones objectives separate. Nidhi Prayas grant was capped at 10 lakh rupees, which would not be sufficient for product development. So, our objective would mostly overlap.
Yes, I understand that you are saying that with 10 lakhs you were supposed to make the product, but maybe you have been, say, able to identify few components, you have made your first prototype with Nidhi Prayas. So then while writing the objectives in BIG, you have to write that our first alpha prototype is ready with Prayas, and now what we want to do is maybe we want to do some iterations to the design or productize it and get to the final prototype. So it should not be again that you're again proposing alpha prototype with BIG. So product development will take a long time, right? There will be a lot of iterations. So you have to clearly state that which grant was used for which type of iteration and what all experiments were done, and that has to be different.
Okay, the next question is from Indumati. So she is asking, I would like to create a one-stop shop, a solution for a life science and biotech students through my web and app and create a sort of encyclopedia. I couldn't reveal the idea here, but it's purely useful for all life science students in terms of career, entrepreneurship, and internship and project work.
Yeah, understood,
Everything.
understood, yeah.
Can I apply for
So,
this grant?
yeah, this is a little more, educational kind of a service platform which you plan to, develop. So here, I think we need to have a one-on-one conversation to understand this better. Yeah.
Okay, I think the next, okay, Satyam asking, can we ask directly? Of course, you can contact us and you can post our queries, no problem. Yeah, and then Ashok Ganpat, he's asking where project leader must have the basic degree relevant to proposed topic or team members with those expertise to solve the problem.
Yeah, so you need to have at least the team members. If you don't have that basic degree, but you need to have completed your graduation to meet the basic eligibility. But suppose if you are not from that particular domain, but at least you should have right team members with that technical expertise. Yes.
I think we have one or two more questions to go. So the next question is where I focus and what should be our strategy when we scale and spread our services in own state and others.
I think this is not related to the
yeah.
thing. Yeah, so we can take it separately. Yeah.
Okay. So if we are not a company, and how could we enter as an individual backed by an incubator?
So if you're not a company, you are not eligible to apply for BIG, but then you can always connect with any incubator and part of their incubation program or some of the mentoring programs and apply for some of the other grants where individuals are eligible, or some of the CSR grants or grants from incubators also. Yeah.
Okay, there are two more questions and then
Yeah.
maybe, yeah. So if we have a freedom to operate, but we can't clearly define novelty, can we apply for the grant?
So here, see, you have a freedom to operate, means you know that what is that which you are doing differently than others, right? So that's your novelty. You are not able to clearly define it, or you don't want to disclose it. There are two aspects. So if you don't want to disclose it, that's a know-how. So you can always say, we want to protect it as a know-how. Yeah.
Yeah, and Indumati, we have given you the email address. You can contact us on this big@venturecenter.co.in, or you can also call us. We will try to explain, or we will try to explain you. I mean, try to address your questions. Yeah, and maybe we'll take last one or two.
Taxi cab service provider, they cannot apply for BIG. It won't fall in any of the domains. So I think Satyam, you are asking if we are taxi cab service provider in rural and semi-urban areas, can we apply for the same? So you may not be eligible for BIG because this is a biotechnology grant, but you can look for other grants which support IT kind of projects. There you would be eligible. And Aditya is asking if something is novel in India, novel to India. So yeah, if something you are trying to make indigenously in India where we are import dependent, then, but again, what is the product technology? All these different factors are important. That how are you capable of doing it? What are you proposing? By which way you plan to make it? All that is also important to understand. So how do I approach one-on-one? So I think we have posted our details. Yeah. Also the BIRAC TRL level documents can be posted. So there is one question. Wait, there are a few questions more. I'll take up. So Arup is asking, is it possible to apply for an enabled technology for a brain imaging system? Our ultimate goal is to make the brain imaging system, and for that we need to make the sensors. Yeah, brain imaging system you can apply for. Yeah. Yes, so you can apply. And Ascor Labs is asking, we have patent granted as part of the PhD research on our idea, but currently don't have any incubation or to create POC. But if you are a company, then you can apply and you can always avail the facilities of incubation center like venture center or wherever you are based out of, and you can do your POC development over there. That's fine. So not necessary that you have your own facility as a startup. You could be incubated in any incubation center and working or availing those facilities. That's also okay.
I think that is it. So
That's it.
that's it, yeah.
Yeah, so I think we have posted the BIRAC TRL level web link over here on in the chat box. Neha has posted, so please take a look at it to understand the different TRL levels, because many a times, people are the TRL levels, people actually, there is a section current TRL and the TRL level you will reach after BIG. So many a times people say TRL 8, 9, which is may actually not possible also maybe in 18 months for their own kind of project. So that's why we tell, be very realistic and need to understand that here we are talking about development of proof of concept prototype or validating it. It's not for a very late stage development. For that, BIRAC has other grants. Yeah. Yeah, it's okay. Arup, even if it is a part of sensor, but if that sensor is very important for anyone who is making a brain imaging system, so then it is of importance. So you will have to then explain that how that sensor would be used in that particular imaging system. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we can conclude.
So we will close now. Yeah.
Yes.
Please feedback on this.
Yes. Thank you so much, Smita ma'am, for that wonderful session. So if any participants, if you all have any more questions, you please write to us at big@venturecenter.co.in and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. I request all the participants to please fill in the feedback form. We'll be pasting the link in the chat box. Please type in any questions, or if you have, please submit the feedback so that it will help us improve on our future events. I want to thank all the collaborating partners and all the participants who joined for today's talk. Thank you so much. And do write to us with any queries or any questions you have about the application. We'll be happy to help you and support you for applying for BIG. So we have pasted the feedback link in the chat box.
So
Please fill in the feedback form.
there is no royalty this time. BIRAC is not charging any royalty. This is just grant in aid, complete grant in aid.
So with that, we come to an end, and all the best to all the applicants applying for BIG this time. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Best of luck.
Each answer, please.